every spot under this garage and in his house has a little story, because nothing went out. Everything went in, but nothing came out. It's like a TARDIS. And each of those little spots have a little story to it, and someone knows that story. I don't know them all, but where, you know, it's one of those ones when we look back and go, yeah, someone, you get a phone call from one of his mates. And I got a call the other day from one of his best mates, who's known for 60 years, Ian Costin, who had a MGTF, but he was just telling me the stories of Pete.
He would always have like a story to tell, like no matter what it was. He would just, like, I'd be in a car trip with him with my younger brother in the back, and he would just come out with a story. Like when we would drive to the shops, it'd be a story. Come on the way back, it'd be a different story. Yeah, every time would just be some story.
Actually, always his willingness to have a good conversation and his stories, and like to bring you into those conversations and teach you things.
Yeah.
Really learns a lot. Appreciated those.
Yeah, I'll miss his car stories, because every time he came, he'd tell us how he got the Roger Rebel, all the names of the cars, and then usually we'd come down here and we'd start up the car almost every time. Keep him running.
Yeah.
Peter was a very colourful people person, and I think that, you know, when Peter used to walk in the room, the party arrived. You know, he's that sort of a character.
I think it was a really funny time. Like, we had the graduation when I graduated from the Royal Military College, and we had I think it was pre-graduation night where all the families went out to sort of a nice restaurant, and I had Dad there, Mandy was there with me, and it was fairly prim and proper, and we were on good behaviour because, you know, our commanding officers, everyone were around, and Dad was very much the life of the party all the time. And I remember one time he must have been feeling so euphoric with being down there at the military college, and, you know, coming into the graduation, he had his and you might have seen Carol's wearing the Kirkland scarf, which is his favourite one. Well, he had that on, and then just all of a sudden he stood up from the table and got the scarf between his legs and goes, I'm having a great time. Much to me, being I'm just a young 25-year-old and quite conservative in that environment, going, Dad, what are you doing, man? Sit down, sit down, sit down.
Back when I first, you know, was staying here for that period, he was quite a big man back then, and he would just be thundering around the house in his DT. I have very clear memories of that, because, you know, when you're someone new coming into the family, you're like, what's going on here? He was totally himself and unfazed. Yeah.
Well, one time we came into his house and he was swimming without his swimming buttons on, and he was like, oh no, and I was like, it's okay, and I'm like, oopsie. I was gonna say that.
Every time Dad and I come back from a surf, we'd always come to Papa's, park in the street, and he'd always have the hose set up for us, walk down and give us a big hug, ask how we're going, talk about the waves, tell us, he'd always tell if there must have been surf or if we'd been out there, because all the car parks would be packed.
Yeah.
Bring us down to Milo or something.
And sometimes he would bring his camera down when we'd go out for a surf and take cool pictures of us surfing, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, he'd always have the camera ready to capture memories.
Which is why his photo wall up there has so many photos.
Yeah, cars were a part of our life, whether we liked it or not.
Well, I remember as kids at 9 Douglas Street, Dad always had, if the Grand Prix was on, he'd sit and lie against the poof. Our little, we used to think
Can't say that word
was
anymore.
a bit naughty, going, oh, poof, oh, you know, as little kids do. But yes, the whatever they call those. Buffet. And Dad would fall asleep in front of the television, and you just got used to it. It was ring, ring, ring. And, you know, that's just how it was. He was so in love with his cars and racing and anything to do with Bathurst and the Grand Prix and, yeah.
Oh, and the Sydney to Hobart yacht race.
Yeah, and the yacht race, exactly.
He just loved racing. And I think Dad he still raced on a racetrack into his early 70s. Well beyond what he should have.
Exactly.
But he wasn't going to give it up. He just loved racing.
It was his passion.
He lived on adrenaline.
Well, the first time I met him, it was the display day, and I had just got a silver TF like the one outside. And I had it on display, and then this fellow comes up in a blue RV8. And he meant to have his in the pride of ownership, but they said, I'll put it in the concourse area. And I said, oh, well, do you want to clean it? You know, do you want to wipe it down and all that kind of stuff? And I started talking. I thought, gee, he's a nice fella. Then we had a Motorcana, and my husband at the time said, oh, go in. You can go with Peter in that car. I'm going off with another friend and that. And I just could not believe my luck to actually have a ride in that car. And we laughed and everything. I had to put a hood on my head. I don't know why. I can't remember. It was a while ago, this. That I had the hood, and there's a photo of me with this funny hood on, and Peter's driving, you know, big smile, and his hair was quite long and curly, and I thought, yes.
Because pretty much his life revolved around it was cars, kids, and small adventures. You know, the adventures of buying the guest house up here in Queensland and moving from Victoria. He had his car with the MG on the back being carted, and I had a tiny little Toyota car with the budgerigars, the cats and the dogs and 2 of the kids. And it was just something like out of a comedy movie, you know, the road train coming up, and we get to one night stopover and the cat goes disappearing, and all of the adventures of doing those out of the square things together with family and creating a wonderful life up here.
The adventure side of things is definitely Dad.
Definitely.
From a very young age.
Oh, I remember our sailing trips every Easter and it rained. I'm like, can you just, it's like the Blues Festival, it rains all the time. Why don't you
we
just
still have fun.
choose another month? But yeah, it was so much fun. But I remember sitting down, Mum had all the meals all planned and our ravioli, and you know, back in those days it was obviously the 80s and it wasn't fancy, but it was fun. It was an adventure, and I think that was the beautiful thing. It was fun.
Whether it was paddling a kayak or, you know, going windsurfing, going for a swim, doing whatever it was, he was always actively involved. So when you grew up, all you were doing, well, you're actively involved in the coastal environments, you know, crabbing, fishing, sailing. So his interests sort of came out, and he weaved those into our lives, and you know, there was always a barbecue and his friends, and you'd all be part of that. So that's how you grew up.
We used to go to the Spit at Mooloolaba because we lived in hot old Nambour, and we'd go to the Spit. We had the esky with the cordial and the igloo.
Yes.
And Dad used to lie, and when the surf was super flat, he'd just lie there like a big pool lounge, and we'd all climb up on top of him. And there's a wave coming, and it wasn't even a wave, it was like a ripple. But I remember being frightened of waves, but I'd climb up on Dad, and he was brown as a berry, and he'd just be like a big surfboard, like a longboard, and we'd just climb on him, and he'd just lie there floating.
Yeah, Dad loved the water.
He loved the water.
No doubt about it.
He always came up for Christmas, and you know, they would stay over, and at every family event we were all together, and it was always fun. Everything was fun.
He would always arrive on Christmas morning at about 5:30 because he was so excited to be there when the kids opened their presents. And I just think that was so beautiful that he really wanted to be there for that.
Every Christmas he would also come over in the morning and give us like little Hot Wheels cars in the little packets.
5:30 in the morning, he'd be there every Christmas.
Yeah.
No doubt, new Hot Wheels car it'd be every year.
Yeah.
Or a set of drawing pencils or something. He's always 5:30 in the morning, bacon and eggs.
Yeah.
Bring around a bucket of prawns as per usual.
Mhm.
Okay, whenever one thing, nearly every Christmas, he would just bring me a King Charles Cavalier toy over as a Christmas present. Yeah.
He loved his cavies, didn't he?
Yeah.
Phoebe's got a collection.
Yeah, I've got a collection at home.
I think memory walls are awesome because when you go down there, it actually is a for everyone is a trip back in time. But the memory wall on the first story up there was one. So left was, I think, as you walk down the hallway, on the left is the family wall. So he was always proud as Punch and always proud of his kids and family, and that even extends to his school community where he used to teach and the like there. But his proudest points were the family on the left. Then of course, then on the right side, his other family, the motoring family, that sat on the right with all of his awards and mainly just capturing all parts of his life and his involvement with his cars there. So I think that certainly is his Hall of Fame up there. And there's always a photo falling off and flapping down onto the stairs there, onto the hardwood stairs, and then if that fell down, another one would appear the next week. But it was an endless supply. But certainly it was always a good thing for him that whenever you came to his house in the later years, and I'd say last year being 2021, you'd walk down there and Dad would show you the glory walls and the fame walls, and you'd do a bit of a tour around the house, and you'd come downstairs and into the garage, and then it would be starting the cars. And one of the big ones about his yellow one, the Roger Rebel, was it first time every time.
He's always got a clown and a costume for this and a costume for that, and then he has his phases like Picasso of all the different stages in life, and he sort of has the cap with the badge stage, and then he has the bow tie stage, and he just loved to be that little bit different with the flair, that creative flair which he had, and it was always manifest in everything, so he was. The kids loved him at parties. He'd always play along with them, and it's just a character. I think that sums Peter up.
He really loved the family,
and he really enjoyed life.
He would always smile.
Probably just like his kindness and stuff.
He always looked happy. Like you'd have like a spark in his eyes.
And he would be interested in what you had to say.
He would always bring me books and we'd read together. He used to always make me laugh and smile.
He was happy.
Yeah, the adventure side of things is definitely Dad.
He wasn't afraid of saying I love you.